Okay, I started the recording. Good morning, Wildcats. I know the middle school has already had a fire drill this morning, so they've been busy working away. Let's start with some good things. What's good going on out there? Carly, you have anything at the middle school?
Yes, we are gearing up for parent-teacher conferences, new strategy or new style with Zooming. So we're excited about that. Just a reminder to parents, make sure that you're using your student's school-issued device. So then when parents or teachers are seeing that name come through, they'll know that it is someone that they know. If for some reason you are not going to be at home with your child, please make sure that you communicate with your teachers so they know to look for that specific name. We do have waiting rooms for security, so that will allow teachers to be able to admit you into that room.
Awesome. Stan, I think you're doing the same kind of thing, right?
Yes, yeah, we're going to do the virtual or the Zoom parent-teacher conferences. We also have our fundraiser going on right now, and the first time ever we're doing all online. It's been interesting. We have pretty good participation. Things a little slower, but it's going well.
All right, we have our first good question. This is a really good question, kind of ties to Stan with what you were talking about. How are the schools going to participate in the United Way drive with pennies by the pound and pennies by the inch? I have not heard any final details on that. Has anybody else heard that yet? Oh, Carla has.
At the middle school, we historically do start with pennies, nickels, dimes, and then come to large dollar bills or checks. This year, that first day, we'll have money set for 72 hours before we have kids count that, and then after 72 hours. So our grand total will be a little bit, we won't be able to announce that immediately, but Mr. Vang checked on that with the United Way and through district folks, and so we're just holding that money for 72 hours is how we've been kind of advised to do that. So yes, we will be participating in that.
Awesome. I hadn't heard the final details on that, so that'll be exciting. So yep, start collecting those pennies.
Hey, I have something good. This week is Transportation Week. So please say hello to your bus drivers, your bus aides. Tell them, hey, thanks. They do a lot behind the scenes, but make sure you stop at the, when the bus arm is out, make sure you stop. Just be careful. Kids crossing the streets. We try not to have them cross streets, but just be cognizant. But our bus folks do a really great job. Shout out to all the bus barn people, James and Alicia and Tanya and Christy. So.
And I believe last week at the end of the week, we had food service week as well. And so our food service folks are doing a fabulous job. Right now, remember, until December, and we think, fingers crossed, it'll be extended further than that. But all kids eat breakfast and lunch free. You can even come pick up breakfast and lunch. So there are options for that. So yeah. We're excited for all their hard work, because you're exactly right. They do a lot behind the scenes. They're feeding our kids. So we appreciate them. Good job. Okay, so I thought that we'd kick off this morning talking a little bit about the new, kind of where we are with the new hashtag part of the Pride After School program for elementary students. As you know, right at school that had our program, they left the Kansas market during the COVID piece in the spring. And so we've been working to try to put something back in place for that. That is, self-sustaining and self-funding. So Kathy, you want to give us an update on kind of where we are with that?
I would. We have, it will be held at Skelly. Stan is gracious enough. Again, it was over there, and so we're just going to keep it over there. It seems to work well. That's where our lead teacher is going to be. Or lead coordinator, as I should call her. And then we are going to bus kids from Grandview to Blackmore over. We've got our bus route already. It'll only be 2 stops. The kids will get over there pretty quick this year. The program is after school till 6 p.m. We had a tentative date, but we had a little snafu. One of our activity group leaders decided not to take the position. So we are still looking for somebody. We have, if you know of anybody, please get the word out. It would be 5 days a week. It's only when we're in school, so you would not work during the holidays or anytime school's not in session, like we don't have school Friday. Part of hashtag part of the pride would not be in session. It would be just a great job. If you wanted a little bit of extra money, great people to work with, and of course, great kids. We do have 19 kids signed up, so we're always looking for more. We made the commitment for the first 15, we'd have a coordinator and then 2 leaders, and every 5 kids we'd add a leader. So we're on that cusp of adding somebody else, but we first got to get our 3 people filled. So and we have not put out a date. I got a phone call yesterday. We're not putting out a date until we get that person hired. Once we do, that date will come pretty quickly. We're hoping, we can find somebody yet in October. So if you know of anybody, please have them fill out an application and we will get hold of them. So exciting.
You can be part of the pride too. It's a great place to be.
Yep, it is.
Okay, so one of the other things I wanted to talk a little bit about this morning is at our last board meeting, we made a change. We've learned a couple of things in the last month or so as we've gone through the process with the health department and how those public health exposures are impacting schools. And so we made a slight change to how some of our process and how we're going to notify folks. It got a little, and my word of the year is wonky. It got a little wonky at times trying to navigate who the health department was contacting and who we contacted. And so working along with the health department and our board, we kind of came up with a process that is a little more, we hope, streamlined and a little more straightforward. So if we have a positive case at a building in the district somewhere, if we have a positive COVID case, the schools will will create a list. They'll take some responsibility in that and create a list of people who could potentially have been exposed. So they'll look at the seating charts. They will look at lists of activities kids are involved in, places they may have been. They'll take that list. We'll provide those parents information on that there was a public health exposure. We do not know, because we don't do the contact tracing, the health department does that. So we don't know if your child would need to be quarantined or not. That is a decision that the health department makes. So we will basically provide a letter that says you've potentially been exposed and you need to reach out to the health department. The health department then will give you a note that says you were not a close contact, you can go back to school, and they could release you that later that day. Or they will do that contact tracing and say, you would need to be quarantined for 14 days or whatever that looks like, because they make those decisions. We don't make those decisions. So we hope that our new process will streamline it a little bit. Basically, that letter will come from the school that says, hey, there has been a public health exposure. You just need to reach out to the health department to find out what those next steps are. It's kind of short, sweet. On the back of the form, and I could pull that up. Hold on one second. On the back of the form will be, and some of you have already seen this. Can you see it? Carla, can you see it? Okay. This is the, I've experienced a health exposure, so what happens with my schoolwork? And it talks about when you can return to the building. Let me get my little annotation thing here, use all my Zoom tools. When you can return to the building, what that looks like, how attendance policies work, where to find assignments, what are the daily expectations. That back page will just be a page for information and where the school can help you. If you have trouble reaching out to the health department, we have one person who will be our health department liaison, for lack of a better term. And that person will be happy to help and reach out and make those connections if you need some help with that. But we hope that this kind of makes that process a little, and the communication a little more straightforward, I guess, for lack of a better term. We hope that makes we hope it makes it go smoother and goes quicker, honestly. So questions, if you have questions on that, I know that was kind of a really fast process. It really is simply a letter from the school district. That page I just showed you would be on the back side, and then you reach out to the health department and we kind of go from there. They make those decisions on who's quarantined and who's not, who's been actually a close contact. That is not really in our wheelhouse of education, if you will. So we're partnering with them just a little bit differently, but we hope that it will make the process go quicker. So if you have questions on that, stick them in the chat or the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer them. We had homecoming last week. Bruce, do you want to talk about homecoming last week any? I believe there were some fun things.
We did have some fun things. Our fifth quarter went very well after the game on Friday night. We had a great group of kids that showed up. We had lawn games spread out all over the field at BG Stadium, and kids had a great time as an alternate to having a dance for that. Our virtual assembly went very well. We had the link was shared out and tweeted out. If you hadn't had an opportunity to see that, it's a great opportunity to check out our candidates. Of course, the game was also streamed live, so you could see all of that. And I don't know if Mrs. King wants to talk about anything special that might have happened at halftime, but we did. Her daughter Emma King was crowned queen, and David Stotts was our homecoming king. The kids did a great job with Spirit Week last week, and their flexibility was impressive. Their creativity was very much appreciated. There's a lot of out of the box thinking with how we can do some things a little bit differently. And they did a great job creating some really cool, potentially new traditions of how we're going to be doing some things. So it went very well.
And thank you for allowing other schools to participate in the Spirit Week. We enjoyed that as well. So thanks.
Anytime.
I actually heard some of that. I heard, please don't take away that video option of the candidates because people loved it. So yeah. Maybe some new traditions were created. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so we got a couple questions. Why the decision to discontinue hybrid? The decision to discontinue hybrid really had to do with how much our teachers are working. And so they had kids who are in person, and they had kids who are remote, and then they had kids on hybrid 1, and then they had kids on hybrid 2. And that movement back and forth was a lot. And it finally kind of got to the point that it was a little too much. And so settling into either in-person or remote kind of grounds the teachers on what the kids need and what they're doing, and hopefully made that load a little bit better. And the building principals could talk about that. Any other thoughts on that piece from building principals?
In addition, the thought of having those stable groups was also looked at, and it really, looking at safety of students, it really wasn't as big of a concern as we had initially thought, that keeping that. So that was another thing that was considered, was that control group.
That's a very good point. Yeah, our stable groups are important. That's a good question. Okay, so these questions these two have to do a little bit with that change in the exposure piece. Are you requiring release letters for students to come back to school? Yes. When you get that exposure letter, it'll have on there that the health department can give you that release information to come back. And it's simply usually an email or a letter from them, a form letter, if you will. They fill out the name and the date they can return. Like I said, for some cases, they may say that person was not a close contact. In other cases, they may say yes and put that quarantine piece in place, which then for us, the remote option is still there for kids and for families. How is the health department going to keep up with this demand? They have run behind at times. I don't disagree with that. The information I got yesterday from the health department is some of those cases they may be turning over to KDHE because they have for lack of a better term, a contact tracing department. They have people who do some of that and can kind of help pick up some of that. So I believe KDHE will step in and help out if they get behind or overwhelmed. So I think those pieces are there. That is also why they've created in district a liaison person who it will be the main contact. So it reduces their number of different people involved in the process. You know, there's one person, and we were assigned a person at the health department as our liaison from them, so that we have a direct contact and who to talk to. That was brand new as of yesterday. So I think that will help. Again, it's that communication piece and making sure we have that really good lines of communication. And the health department is on our gating team that meets every week. So they are with us weekly as well. So we have that communication piece. Are we still able to change from on-site to remote? There is time to still do that. And we allowed some flexibility in that. Just work with your building. What we don't want to have happen on-site versus remote, and I know we're bouncing between topics here a little bit, we don't want to bounce that quickly between remote and on-site. So it's really, if you choose the remote option, you kind of choose that option. But if something changes, your building principals have been superstars in helping families get where they need to be and do what they need to do. That was a good question. We all have good questions first thing in Tuesday mornings. Any more questions out there? So far, we've answered the ones we got in the chat box and in the Q&A. All right. Well, you know, I don't like to keep you longer than you have to, because nobody wants to sit on Facebook later and watch this for hours and hours. But before we go, I believe, and I could be wrong, but we talked about how great our food service are, and we talked about our amazing transportation department. But it is also National Principal Month, I believe. And so to our principals, and I know Susan's not here this morning, but to our principals, I appreciate what you do every day. Make sure your assistant principals know that too. But you do a great job leading your buildings, and we in 490 are very proud to have you as part of the Pride. So thank you for what you do, building principals. There was one more question. What food amounts for EHS? I don't know, asking about food amounts for EHS. I need a little bit more information. So food amounts as in the cost of it, having enough food. Let me see. Oh, there's some concern that they're not getting enough food. Teenage bodies need a lot of food. So, okay, we can look into that, and we'll bring that up as a topic next week. We'll look into that this week, because I had not heard that yet, but we can take a peek into that and see if there's an extra snack here or there. So we will do some checking. That's a great piece of the puzzle. And I believe EHS Student Council just posted about the pennies by the pound. Okay, so I think that was my last question I got in there. Are you all having a good day? Go be amazing. All right, thank you for joining us. We'll pick up the food service next time too. Okay, thank you.